From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Friday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, tonight, more Montanans tied to the Capitol riots just 3 weeks ago. Two Montana brothers caught on camera at one of the most visible confrontations with authorities inside the Capitol. Well, as of tonight, more than 170 people have been arrested, 3 of those from Montana. MTN's John Riley tells us about the latest 2.
Court documents say Helena area brothers Joshua Calvin Hughes and Jared Wade Hughes turned themselves into Helena police after seeing national news coverage from the Helena Capitol and believing they were wanted by the FBI. Joshua and Jared Hughes each face 9 charges for their alleged involvement in the riot. Prosecutors say the brothers were among the first 10 rioters to enter the U.S. Capitol at that part of the building. Jared Hughes is accused of working with another man to kick open a door that would let more people enter the building. From there, court records say the crowd began to move towards the Senate floor. According to investigators, the 2 met up with another suspect, Douglas Austin Jensen, who had engaged with a lone Capitol police officer, Eugene Goodman. Images of surveillance video show the mob advancing up a flight of stairs towards Goodman. Goodman has been called a hero for baiting the rioters away from the Senate floor while lawmakers were still evacuating. Goodman led the crowd to an adjacent hallway and backup, where the confrontation continued until rioters left the atrium. Investigators say the Hughes brothers were among a group who then forced their way onto the Senate floor, where video captured the 2 men opening senators' desks and reviewing sensitive material inside. The Hughes brothers are 2 of 3 Montanans now that have had charges filed against them regarding the Capitol riots. The other was a Dillon man who was arrested and released last week. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Thanks, John. Now, among the charges listed in court documents, obstructing law enforcement during a civil disorder, entering the Capitol with the intent to disrupt official business, and the destruction of property. Well, a fugitive wanted for questioning in a Billings murder is captured in Chicago. In December, 2 federal warrants were issued for 28-year-old Lorenzo James Harris. He's accused of assault with a weapons charge and strangulation. But police say he's also a person of interest in a murder investigation here in Billings. A fugitive task force tracked him down and arrested him in Chicago yesterday. Authorities are not addressing which murder they want to question him about. Harris is pending extradition back to Montana. And just moments ago, Billings police tweeted that 38-year-old Lauren Ironhawk has been located and is safe. Now, Lauren was missing since January 15th in the Heights. As President Biden halts the Keystone XL Pipeline and stops oil and gas leasing on federal lands, Republican critics say the president is waging a war on energy and costing Montana and other states thousands of jobs and millions in tax revenue. But what are the actual impacts in Montana? Tonight, MTN's Mike Dennison takes a closer look.
Make no mistake, canceling the Keystone XL Pipeline will cost Montana some construction jobs and tax revenue.
People have been laid off, and a tremendous amount of money spent on pipe manufactured in the United States that now has no place to go. There's been a tremendous amount of investment that has gone into this project.
Canadian pipeline developer TC Energy, based in Calgary, says it's laying off 1,000 people, but hasn't said how many are in the U.S. or Montana. Yet environmental review documents and company information give us a good look at the impacts in Montana. The underground pipeline would traverse 285 miles of northeast Montana from the Port of Morgan to the South Dakota border near Ekalaka. Between 800 and 1,000 workers would be in Montana during the construction phase for anywhere from 9 to 27 months. Many of those workers would be in man camps near Hinsdale, Circle, and Baker. But only 10 to 15% of those workers would be hired locally. And just a handful of local jobs would be needed to maintain the completed pipeline. The lasting revenue impact in Montana, however, would be property taxes paid by TC Energy. According to the environmental study of the pipeline, $63 million a year in the 6 counties along the pipeline route. That money would be divided among the state treasury, local schools, and local governments. Macomb County Commissioner Jim Mose says schools, roads, and other infrastructure in his rural county could certainly use the boost. And the pipeline also would have a terminal near Baker that Montana and North Dakota oil producers could use to transport their product southbound.
The more options we have, the better price that we can get for Montana crude. Anytime we can do something to increase the value of Montana crude oil, everybody in Montana benefits.
But as you can imagine, not everyone agrees that Keystone is a net economic gain for Montana. Whitney Taney of Montana Conservation Voters says boosting oil development is not a path to prosperity for most of Montana.
They should be taking actions to protect our climate, our environment, our water, our public lands. Our economy here in Montana is largely driven by that outdoor recreation economy.
And tribes on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation say the pipeline threatens their water supply and that its workforce could be a health threat. Lance Forstar of the Assiniboine Council says at a pipeline work area last spring, he saw numerous people not wearing masks or taking precautions against COVID-19. Forstar believes long-term impacts of the pipeline and oil development will override any financial benefits for the region.
And we look at the big picture, and we look at that carbon dioxide emission content in Earth's atmosphere. I just don't see how people would choose money and anybody that just thinks that it's okay to come into our area and work on this pipeline to put food on their table. They're not thinking about the drinking water on our table.
As long as Joe Biden is president, it looks like Keystone XL is done for. Next week, we'll look at Biden's moratorium on oil and gas leasing on federal lands and what that means for Montana. In Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Now, the Keystone XL Pipeline would primarily transport crude oil from Canada's tar sands in northern Alberta. Well, as Montana approaches the milestone of 100,000 COVID-19 vaccinations, state leaders are increasing their calls for the federal government to provide more doses. MTN's Jonathan Amberian has more on the latest data.
Next week, Montana is set to receive more than 15,000 first doses of COVID-19 vaccines. But Governor Greg Gianforte says the state could administer twice that many if the federal government provided them. As of Friday morning, state data showed more than 99,000 vaccine doses had been administered in Montana, with nearly 25,000 people fully immunized. Gianforte pointed to CDC data showing the state has administered about 2/3 of the doses it has received, one of the best rates in the country. But he said Montana has received one of the lowest amounts of vaccine per 100,000 population.
We're doing a terrific job, as the CDC data show, but we're not being rewarded with an appropriate dose allocation from the federal government.
Gianforte sent a letter to President Joe Biden this week, urging the federal government to do all it can to increase availability. Dr. Greg Holtzman, the state medical director, said those who are now eligible to receive the vaccine should contact their local public health departments to find out what they will need to do.
That does not mean everyone that is in 1B will be able to get their vaccine next week. We don't have the supply for the demand that's there. But it's important for you to know how you can get the vaccine, to get on the list that may be available within your communities, and know where to go to find that.
Holtzman said he's hopeful about the progress on a new vaccine from Johnson & Johnson, which would require only a single shot and make distribution much faster. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. And the state's numbers do not include people who've been vaccinated through federal programs. Leaders say several thousand more Montanans have received doses through the Indian Health Service and the VA. Well, the number of Montanans now in the hospital with COVID-19 has dropped to just about 100. And so far today, state health authorities have reported one additional death in the last 24 hours. That death out of Roosevelt County, the county's 54th. Now, tonight, active cases are right around 3,600 and nearly 8,900 Montanans have recovered from the virus. Well, once the next shipment of vaccine rolls into Billings, St. Vincent Healthcare will be ready. The hospital has come up with a new way to sign up to get the COVID-19 vaccine. You can now add your name to a list by filling out a form on the SCL Health website. The form asks for basic information such as your age, address, and previous medical conditions. The hospital says it should take about 2 minutes to complete. One noted feature on the form is that people are able to indicate if they want to be added to the rapid call list. Now, that's in case someone ahead of you is unable to make their appointment.
There is one additional data element that we have on the form, and that's for individuals who could potentially break away with very little notice because we've had a no-show or for whatever reason we have an extra appointment on that given day. So we ask individuals to indicate whether or not that's an option for them, because our commitment is to vaccinate as many people as quickly as we can and not waste a single dose of vaccine. So that's also part of what you'll see on that form.
And Skihan notes people who do not have online access and are currently eligible to receive the vaccine can call 406-237-7050 to schedule an appointment. Well, the Billings Symphony Orchestra and Chorale celebrated a big day.
We're ready?
The ribbon cutting marked a new era for its headquarters, sales, and community outreach. To help celebrate the event, a German Bosendorfer piano is on loan in the Symphony's lobby, a piece they hope to permanently showcase. For the first time, the entire library is in one place, and there's a meeting room that Symphony administrators say the public can eventually use. And one big addition to the new location is the Symphony's new artistic office.
We can record some of our Explore Music activities where we can have guest artists practice. We've used it for a number of different recordings to musician auditions, you name it. We can do that kind of thing in the artistic office.
But we are very excited to announce today that from February 13th, we'll come back to perform with symphonic music for our community. And we have several concerts over a weekend, so we can socially distance and everybody mask and just making sure we provide a safe event. We can't wait.
That's right. Live shows are once again on the way. Now, the new building also offers the convenience of ground level ticket purchases. Well, up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, the importance of news literacy within minority communities and how incorrect facts have a direct effect on families and their finances.
Hi everybody, Scott Breen up at MSU Billings, where the Yellow Jacket women tonight play their first game in over 300 days. We are one-on-one with head coach Kevin Wooden. Straight ahead.
And despite the clouds, we managed to warm up. 44 the unofficial high at the airport for today. We didn't add any new precipitation quite yet, but in a couple of minutes we'll show you who is getting snow and when we could expect more in Billings.